from the lights as they go out now. And it's an absolutely incredible start from the birthday boy, and he's going to take it into turn one. Yes, he has. What a start from Steve Rideout. My goodness me, that was impeccable. So we got Nev Kirkpatrick on the back there as well, number one car. Obviously last year's champion, trying around the outside of the hairpin. Has he got that done at the bank-in? No, he hasn't. Greg Jenkins holds on, and it's Ben Butler taking lead from Will Tyrrell and the Mighty Minis. Ollie Samways is making his move already, up to third here, Josh.
Yeah, so he might lead the class by the end of the lap, and for the lead of the race overall, Steve Rideout on that outside line, trying to get the better then of the fast starting David Kirkpatrick. They're absolutely wheel to wheel as they head up the straight. But Nev Kirkpatrick is still trying to find his way past Greg Jenkins, who started at the front. So it's 2 by 2. There may only be 4 Super Mighty Minis that taken the start, but they're all absolutely tied together at the start here. And the outside line is David Kirkpatrick. Steve Rideout goes through, he hops up onto free wheels, a little bit wide for David Kirkpatrick. Nev is up to third now. He's got himself past Greg Jenkins.
Yeah, very good stuff, wasn't it? 2 by 2, both the first, second, then the third and fourth cars. Looks like a little short, like mini British touring car race between those 4 at the moment, but we'll see how that pans out. But Nev Kirkpatrick already up to third place, was suffering from brake problems. That was what it was in the previous last few laps of yesterday's race.
So the 4 of them turn their way up onto the Tom Price straight, named after the Welsh Grand Prix driver of the 1970s. And they're the Mighty Minis. They turn their way through. Let's watch the leaders overall, because the Supers is changing as David Kirkpatrick gets down the inside of Steve Rideout. And I guess Craig, he'd be keen to try and pull clear of his brother, because he knows how quick Nev is this weekend. Yeah, he seems to be very quick around that hairpin, doesn't he? Every time Dave Kirkpatrick seems to have that one sussed. He nearly got the win. As you can see, he's gone very defensive as they come into the bus stop. Nev Kirkpatrick following his brother. Oh, a little bit of a lean on Steve Rideout, and he's managed to get tucked in. That was a brilliant bit of driving, but again, Steve Rideout just backed out. He's trying to go down the inside of turn one again. He has a look, doesn't quite get it. The nose has been shut off. He does try again and again and again, and he's coming up to the bus stop. Oh, there's a little bit of gravel clicked up by David Kirkpatrick, and Nev Kirkpatrick sees the opportunity, goes down the inside. Beautiful move from Nev Kirkpatrick, now in the second place and chasing after his brother, on a bit of a mistake round the banking, and that could cost him on the straight, but it seems to be a lot quicker, that car down the straight, as we see him coming to church. Yeah, David Kirkpatrick ran out wide, out over the curbs. As you saw the dust, he was pretty much on the grass at that stage, and that means he's under threat now from his brother. Nev Kirkpatrick, who gets the run out of Church Corner, and he pulls up alongside, and he's nosing ahead, but Steve Rideout, who's got the double toe, big hole made in the air by these 2 minis that are running side by side. David Kirkpatrick, by the end of the straight though, has regained the position up front, but he's run a little bit wide, but this will give him the inside line for the second part of Rocket, so that's okay. If you can get on that inside line, run your car out wide, you've still got the inside line for the next part of the corner, so still Rideout and Jenkins behind, all 4 of them. As we say, we'd like to see more Super Mighty Minis for the remaining rounds, but the 4 we have in this race are right tied together, Craig. Yeah, absolutely superb stuff, wasn't it? Nev Kirkpatrick again trying, and he's got that inside line. Has he got it? Yes, he has. Through seams. Great move there from Nev Kirkpatrick. Now, can they stay with him? They should work together, and that's the problem yesterday, because Rideout and Dave Kirkpatrick was too busy battling against each other. Nev just disappeared down the road. This time they got an opportunity as the safety car worked out well for him. Well, that is if David Kirkpatrick doesn't run into the back of his brother, as he nearly did there into the hairpin. The Mighty Minis was Ben Butler leading at the end of the first lap. Is he still there, Craig? No, it's Ollie Samways. He has literally just taken that way. Oh, there's a little puff of smoke. Is that bodywork damage there on the back of Ben Butler's car? But I'll tell you what, he's done a lot of adjustments overnight, and you can see that car is working very, very well. He's still with the leader. The overall leaders are in that order, with Nev Kirkpatrick ahead of David. He held on despite that late braking moment. But the Mighty Minis, let's take a look at those now as they turn their way towards the end of what is the second lap to this race, with Ben Butler staying with 3-time winner this year, Ollie Samways. Then a gap back to Daniel Smith, who is there in third. Ahead of Chris Didcott, Susie Inch and Will Tyrrell come through with a bit of a gap to Bryn Pearce, who's at the back. But for now, Ben Butler sticking with Ollie Samways. Yeah, I don't know if that's a puff of smoke from the exhaust or it's bodywork. I'm trying to see it on the screen here. It just seems when he was going round the left-handers, he was puffing up a bit of smoke, so it might be, yeah, it looks like it's coming from the exhaust, so that could be an issue there, unless it's just over-fueling. Fingers crossed that's okay, but he does seem to be pulling back, and Ollie Samways is back in the zone, isn't he? Could be the 4th win already after round 2. So they turn their way out of Church Corner. And a long run for these Mighty Minis cars that don't have huge amounts of brake horsepower, but they have huge amounts of fun for driving them, Craig.
Yeah, they do. Sorry, just looking through the window there, and Mr. Chris Didcott got up his first podium ever. Is now battling for another podium, so fingers crossed he can do that, but Dan's just managed to defend that. But keep an eye on Chris Didcott in the 40 car, doing a cracking job for 360 Racing.
He's there just behind Dan Smith, who got past him on the previous lap, but Didcott trying to come back. But there's Butler then in his 43 TBM car. And he turns his way up through the left-hander, which is Siemens, that takes you onto the Tom Price straight. And you're going downhill there, so you've really got to judge your speed as you go on the brakes. And you don't use brakes terribly much in a Mini, maybe a little bit more here at Anglesey than other circuits, but it's all about momentum. Yeah, third and fourth is pretty much it for these cars around here, and you can see out the screen again, love your buy. I love that little caption there. But he's nobody's behind him at the moment, so he seems to be okay. He's got 2.5 seconds to say on Dan Smith, but back with the leaders of the supers, and Neville Kirkpatrick has now dropped into second place. Dave's got that lead again, and he's holding it, so let's see what he can do. Yeah, so that has changed then in the overall lead battle. It's David Kirkpatrick, who was the runner-up yesterday, who is heading his brother once more. 14 minutes on the clock, so lots of racing to go, and a good run out of Church Corner, using the two as well for Nev Kirkpatrick. We saw this a little bit earlier, didn't we? And then David Kirkpatrick was able to fight back uphill into Rocket, and he's going to try and do the same again because he's on the inside line. But this time, Nev has got a small gap, a lock-up for David Kirkpatrick, and the two of them, I think Nev realised what was happening there and just turned out of the corner a little bit, hopped over the grass. He's got the lead as well, so in every way, that worked out for Nev. There wasn't any contact, and he's got the lead. Yeah, was he using the track? I don't know, but it looks good on the screen, doesn't it? It was absolutely brilliant. He went very wide there, managed to get it back inside, got the defensive line sorted, back into the leaders, Neville Kirkpatrick. Greg Jenkins on the back of this as well, after all the incidents in front, so a lot of battling going on. It's just brought all four of them back together again. Great stuff. Yeah, so Greg Jenkins, who was a race winner at Silverstone, is there in fourth position, and he's sticking with the top three today, which he wasn't able to do yesterday. So the four of them turn their way up towards the hairpin, and these Minis carry so much speed proportionally through there compared to their top speed, compared to the other categories here this weekend. Then up to the final corner at bus stop, and it's easy to get the four of them all in one shot as they turn their way into the end of the fourth lap. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is only four of them, but they're making it a great battle for the lead, isn't it? Any one of these four cars could win this race, and all of them looking at least for that podium, but it's anybody's at the moment, as we see Neville Kirkpatrick again getting sideways. Hopefully the brakes hold out. It's a lot cooler today, so they should be okay. Tyres were a little bit of a mishap, because that was another one that happened with Stuart Coombs. Showed me this morning. It actually delaminated his race tyre on the near side front, so that was interesting. Yeah, I think that the actual track temperature is going to be massively less today because the sun's not out. The sun really brought the track temperature up yesterday, and it wasn't just the Mini drivers complaining about overheating tyres. That was a common feature, but that shouldn't be the problem today. The fastest lap is actually slower than yesterday, and it's going the way of David Kirkpatrick, 1 minute 50. 3.30. Nev Kirkpatrick's done a 1 minute 53.31, 100th of a second slower. So wow. They're very equally paced today, the top two. And then Steve Rideout, and there you see Greg Jenkins in the fourth position as they turn their way out of Rocket up towards Pill, the right-hander there. And Nev, you can see, is pushing on Craig, trying to break the toe. Yeah, he was very twitchy as he came through there, didn't he? He was looking like he had a little bit of an off. He was going wide of the tarmac there, and managed to get himself redeemed, and that's sort of put David Kirkpatrick back in there. But again, he just seems to have the the momentum to just pull away from Nev again. See in front there, 0.7. So down a gear they turn as they brake into the hairpin into third gear there before accelerating back parallel to the Tom Price straight towards the final corner. So I presume back up to fourth gear before braking then down into Siemens. You can see all the brake lights come on. You can hear the wind much stronger today than it was yesterday, blowing the weather fronts around the Anglesey circuit, but so far blowing them away from the circuit. We haven't had very much rain apart from that shower during the course of the red flag on the previous race. And a big moment for David Kirkpatrick out over the curbs. He had lots of oversteer there, but he just kept his foot buried and let the front wheels pull the car straight again. He's pushing hard because he's dropping away from his brother. Let's have a look at the Mighty Minis, because the Class B car, the Class A cars are being led by Ollie Sandwaite. It's a couple of seconds ahead of Ben Butler. Then it's battle for third between Dan Smith and Chris Didcott.
Yeah, slight mistake there, wasn't it? And from Diddy, as he turned in, he lost a hell of a lot of time coming out of the hairpin there, but he seems to be okay now. And see if he can chase down Dan Smith. And he looks like he's got a good exit off the corner of bus stop, which is a brilliant little run through there, and that could give him a bit of momentum going into turn one. You can see Susie Inch coming through as well, just slightly off pace at the moment, but she's still enjoying herself, and obviously great history there with Paul and Louise also racing in the Mighty Minis from years ago.
And for Nev Kirkpatrick, he didn't like the idea of his brother getting the fastest lap. He's taken it away. A 1 minute 52.63, which is half a tenth quicker than he went yesterday. So despite those very different track temperatures, the lap times between yesterday and today are very, very similar. And it is Nev Kirkpatrick pulling now a second clear of his brother as we watch the Mighties turn their way up here. We haven't quite got that big pack in the Mighty Minis like we did yesterday.
No, and I'm just wondering if Ben Butler is trying to just hold an issue out, because he's definitely slowing down. He's not going slow, but it seems like the two behind are catching him. But we're just taking a look at Ollie Sandwaite, who's just been absolutely unstoppable this weekend. He really knows how to drive this car. And he was an enduro racer with the MR2, and he done very well in that. So he's come into this and really enjoying himself out on track.
Very different car. The MR2 was, I think, a supercharged machine, which had lots of power. These cars, not so much, and front-wheel drive compared to rear-wheel drive, front engine compared to mid-engine. So there's probably not huge much similarities between the two, apart from in a car on a racing circuit, which, if you're a good driver, normally you can go from one to another with a decent amount of ease, and Ollie Sandwaite is obviously proving that. He's nearly 4 seconds clear of Ben Butler, who, as Craig is saying, is starting to be closed in by this battle for third within the Mighty Minis. Dan Smith versus Chris Didcott, and Dan Smith very keen to make sure he doesn't give any toe away to Chris Didcott, going as far to the left-hand side of the circuit as he can. Yeah, he can. Yeah, it's sort of like he's gone defensive very, very early, but it doesn't seem to help him out, because, again, he just has to move back over to get the racing line, and it's brung Didcott back into this mix, hasn't it? The 40 car just behind the 45 car, Dan Smith, and again, has to get a good run out of this of turn one as they climb up to the banking, and they are closing in Ben Butler. So Ben Butler's lap time in the last lap was a Choi 2.3, a Choi 1.7 for Dan Smith, 6 tenths quicker. So as you say, Craig, that gap coming down with 7.5 minutes to go. So there is still time for what is second position in the Mighty Minis to become a battle with Ben Butler, who I think you said he made setup changes, so I wonder if it's brought the car in quickly, but then the car starting to drop off as the race goes on. Yeah, because they have these the rubber donuts on the back, and they have a different setup. They have the blue dot, they have the red dots, and they have the yellow dots, and the yellow dots are like a harder compound sort of rubber, and then that's like the racing side of it. Then the red dot is the one he should have had. He had a standard suspension setup, and then as he went into we had to look at it, it was just not quite good enough. So he's just replaced them for the red dots, and everyone's like, oh, that's the one you should be racing on. He tried it, and obviously it's worked, but not worked well enough, as you can see, because he's now being caught. But I don't know if that's an engine issue. Okay, well, that's something to keep an eye on towards the end of this fourth round of the Mighty Mini Championship for 2023. And there's Butler being closed in by Dan Smith and Chris Didcott. Interestingly, I noticed, looking at the results, okay, Ollie Sandwaite has won every race, but 6 other drivers have finished on the podium, and none of them have finished on the podium more than once this year. So for those drivers, they'll be looking for that second podium this year. Whether that'll be Ben Butler, Dan Smith or Chris Didcott, we'll find out over the next 6 minutes. Yeah, definitely. And just as we're looking at Chris Didcott there, the 40 car in the Mighty Minis, he's massively benefiting out of this championship today, because obviously more points for him. That's going to put him into second place in the championship, because these guys ain't going to be able to catch up with the points they're on at the moment. So he's going to be buzzing. He'll absolutely be pumped, and he's totally changed his game this year for sure. So that battle goes up across the line to complete 7 laps of the race. just a reminder that it's still Nev Kirkpatrick that leads the race. He leads by 1.7 seconds over David Kirkpatrick. In the Mighty Minis, it is Ollie Stanways that leads by 6.5 seconds now over Ben Butler, who continues to be reeled in by Dan Smith. That gap now 1.5 seconds. Dan Smith's not only catching Ben Butler, but he is pulling in clear now Chris Didcott for the first time.
Yeah, again, it was just, again, that racing line, it just seems to be a bit tighter, does Didcott, as he comes through. Nice wide entry from Dan Smith as he comes through, and as they come down Church now, and chasing down through to Rocket, and seem to be definitely closing down the straights. They seem to be closing Ben Butler. It looks like it's a little bit closer this time round here, Josh.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. There's another battle going on just behind them as well, between Susie Inch and William Tyrrell for 9th position overall. So there is a couple of dices going on around this Anglesey International Circuit that we're using this weekend. Greg Jenkins across the line. He's slowing. That car didn't sound terribly healthy to me, and that was a slow lap for him, so he's dropped off the top 3. We'll catch up on that in a moment. We watch this battle now between Susie Inch and newcomer Will Tyrrell.
Yeah, the rookie's doing a fantastic job, and again, bonus points for him today. He felt a little bit disappointed with himself yesterday. He said, I was locking up everywhere, I wasn't doing this, and I'll just sort of give him a bit of information. Just concentrate on the guys in front of you. You know, new to the championship, look at their lines, learn from them, and then develop as you go on. He's already had a podium already. You know, if he does well today, you know, he can go back with, his head held high, but he's chasing a very good driver in Susie Inch.
So here comes Susie then down the Tom Price straight up towards the hairpin. She's had a 4th, 5th and 6th so far in the Mighty Mini races. She'd be keen to get on the podium. That's probably not going to happen today because this battle is a little way behind those positions where Ben Butler, still trailing a bit of smoke, is being closed in on by Dan Smith and Chris Didcott. That battle not quite developing, but I think it may do in the next lap or so, which for Ben Butler, he'd like to see the checkered flag come a little earlier. For Dan Smith, he knows he needs to close in because there's not that many laps to go. As for the first time this weekend, they've got a bit of lap traffic to deal with, and Bryn Pearce did the polite thing there. He pulled to the right-hand side of the circuit, allowed the leaders to still have their racing line. Nev Kirkpatrick's pulling away. So sort of the opposite race for him today compared to yesterday. He has the big lead at the end of the race rather than the beginning of the race. Yeah,
exactly. He seems to have settled down a lot more than yesterday. He was full on from the start, and obviously it did not help him at all. Obviously glazed the brakes up, as he said in the paddock yesterday, and it's definitely seemed to have worked out a lot better this time round with 2 minutes 40 to go. I can't see him losing this one now, but I'll tell you what, podium for 2nd place here is on, isn't it? Right out, he's not giving it up, and the words "have it" was used yesterday for the birthday boys. So let's see what he can get into that 2nd place.
So they're on the penultimate lap now. This is lap 10. It'll be an 11-lap race in the 20-minute duration. Greg Jenkins is carrying on, but at a much reduced pace. For 2nd, though, in the Mighty Minis, Craig?
Yeah, here we go, Ben Butler. He's in defensive mode now because Dan Smith has caught him, and there's a lot of smoke puffing out the back of that exhaust system, so he's definitely got a problem there. And down the straight, he seems to be pulling away okay, but I don't know, I'm not too sure. Maybe it's too much oil, overfueled. We're not 100% sure. We'll have to have a chat with him afterwards, but this is it. One more lap to go, and, Dan could have this podium. He could get that 2nd place. Oh, he's down the inside. Good little move here, but I don't think he's going to have the traction. He's going to have to go defensive if they come into the bus stop. But I tell you what, Dan's a brave man. He might just have a little pop at this, but Diddy's just sitting there. Anything happens, he's going to get it back. Look at the third cut back there from Dan Smith. He's going to go for it. He's going to bite the bullet. Has he done it? No, he hasn't. Well, that was a little bit of a cheeky move there from Dan. He's saying, look, I'm here. I'm coming back for you in a minute, mate.
These guys may squeeze in 2 more laps if they don't get lapped by the overall leaders, who will be going for their last lap very shortly. So as long as they don't get lapped by the supers, it'll be 2 more laps for Dan Smith to get past Ben Butler. But after that challenge, Ben Butler's pulled a little clear again, a few mini lengths between himself and the chasing car of Smith, and Chris Didcott being brought into that battle as well as they go up towards Church Corner for what is the 10th time for them. That lap is already being completed by Nev Kirkpatrick, who starts his final lap before the Mighty Mini battle, Craig. They still have a lap and a half to go. Oh,
fantastic stuff. So we have got a cracking battle here between Butler and Dan Smith, and then Didcott just behind there, and he seems to be okay on the right-hand corners. It's just the left-hand corners Ben Butler seems to be struggling. So here we go into the left-hander, and you can see, oh, he has got an issue. He's skipping away, and it looked like he had to turn his engine off there, Dan Smith, as he come through Rocket there, and he's got it back into play, but that's actually helped Ben Butler out. He just didn't have nowhere to go, so he had to wait the 40 car in behind. So these three still battling away, but I tell you what, Ben Butler's under real pressure.
You can see the Cooper car stripe on Dan Smith's car. Of course, John Cooper back in the 1960s turned the Mini into a racing car, which won the British Saloon Car Championship in the 1960s, and ever since then it's been such a popular racing car in the UK in various different championships, in historic racing more recently as well. The Mighty Minis Championship, which has been going on for a number of seasons now as well, which is on the last lap for the overall leaders. And Nev Kirkpatrick now 3.6 seconds clear of his brother David, who still has Steve Ride out for company.
Yeah, he's trying, as you can see him, he's pushing, he's skipping that front tyre as he came through Seaman there, and he's trying to push as hard as he can. The birthday boy is pushing. 56 today, sorry about that, Steve. He's playing Laser Quest last night, it was great. But brilliant to see him pushing hard, and he's trying to get that second place. I don't think he's going to do it because Dave has just got a great exit off the corner, but we've still got one more corner to go, but I don't think it's going to be done here as Nevin Kirkpatrick comes through, and he's going to cross the line and take race 2 here at Anglesey, with Dave Kirkpatrick finishing in second place, Ride Out in third there, Josh.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye to see if Greg Jenkins brings it home. He wants to score the points. For second in the Mighty Minis, it's side by side, heading out to Church Corner. So we'll pick up on that as well, because here they are. Dan Smith is alongside Ben Butler now. We've seen this challenge coming. We saw that moment a lap ago up the top here for Butler. Is he going to be able to hang on this time on the outside? The inside is with Dan Smith. They both break as late as they dare. Chris Didcott watching with interest to see if he can get involved, but Dan Smith has done it. He's got into second, but that doesn't mean it's over yet, Craig.
No, it doesn't. He was very brave, Dan. He was like, oh, he's going to turn in a minute, he's going to turn in, but he just held out, and the great respect from the two drivers, helped each other in qualifying, because they were both suffering with some poorly engines and suspension issues, so helped each other out in qualifying, and some great driving there from Butler and Dan, and Diddy trying to push there to try and get that podium spot, but he's just not quite there at the moment, but we've still got a couple more turns, so anything can happen in the last couple of corners here, Josh.
Yeah, 10 seconds up the road is Ollie Samway. He's on his way to his 4th victory in the 4 races, but for second place, Ben Butler has a look to the outside as they go through the right-handed hairpin bend. By the way, Greg Jenkins did bring his car home in 4th place. This is about a 5th, or for 6th overall, but more importantly for the drivers, for 2nd within the Mighty Minis. Just ahead of them, though, Ollie Samways comes through to take a victory. There's the checkered flag. So it's a victory again for Ollie Samways. For 2nd, though, in the Mighty Minis. Well, Dan Smith is just ahead, but Ben Butler's got a good exit, but there's a short run to the line, and that's not enough. So Dan Smith, it took until the last lap there, Craig, but he managed to take that 2nd place away from Ben Butler.
Yeah, super drive. They're side by side as they come through turn 1 there. Just saying, well done, guys. That was an absolutely splendid race, and brilliant. Well done to Ben Butler. He was obviously had a poorly engine there, but he's managed to hold on, and great stuff from him. So he's got a podium, so he'll be happy with that. Dan Smith will also be happy, but Ollie Samways, again, wow. Nobody can stop him. Is there anyone out there that can?
Well, we will see as the season goes on, but that's all for the Mighty Minis this weekend at Anglesey. Let's have a look at the results of round 4 of the season, which went the way of Nev Kirkpatrick in the end by 4.7 seconds after fighting off his brother in the early stages. David Kirkpatrick was 2nd, Steve Rightow 3rd, and Greg Jenkins brought his car home in 4th after problems towards the end. 5th overall in the Mighty Minis victory went to Ollie Samways by 11 seconds over Dan Smith, who passed Ben Butler on the final lap. Chris Didcott was 8th, ahead of Susie Inch. Will Tyrrell and Bryn Pearce brought his car home this time in 11th position. So the Mighty Minis will be back in action at Thruxton in 4 or 5 weeks' time there at their big historic meeting. So the Minis will entertain on the fast Thruxton circuit, a very different track to Anglesey, flat out most of the way around there. They'll be back with the 750 Motor Club at another tight circuit at Cadwell Park, so we look forward to enjoying Mighty Minis there. Brands Hatch for the Mini Festival, Donington Park back with 750 Motor Club, and then Castle Combe at the end, which is the home nowadays for the Mighty Minis Championship with Castle Combe Motor Club. Big thanks to Craig Cook, who's joined me up here in the commentary box. Look forward to seeing you later in the year, Craig.
Thanks, buddy.
For now, we'll head downstairs to Andy McEwen.
So, double race win then for Nevin Kirkpatrick in the Super Mighty Minis and indeed for Ollie Samways in the Mighties. Now, for some reason, Nevin doesn't want to come and park in front of his number 1 board, so we'll have a quick wander down to our Mighty Mini drivers then. And Nevin Kirkpatrick, having claimed another race victory there, Nev, a perfect weekend for you at Anglesey. Got to be happy with that.
Very happy with that, yep. I'm lucky there was no safety car today because my brakes packed up again, but it's a bit easier to manage when you've got a little gap. But first half was exciting, fight with my brother and Steve, but yeah, I'm very happy with the 2 first. Can't argue with that.
Quite a technical track as well, so I guess it is tough on the brakes. Is that an Anglesey specific issue or something you've had before?
Never had it before. Been to Anglesey before, never had an Anglesey before, but don't know. I certainly want to fix it though.
I'm sure you do. So there you go. They're Nevin Kirkpatrick victory in the Supers. Now we're going to just have a quick wander down and try and catch Ollie Samways. If we've got time to come back to our overall top 3, we will do, but we've got the low costs heading out very shortly. And there is Ollie just down here. So we'll interrupt what I'm sure is a very important chat that he's having and try and have a quick word with our Mighty Mini winner. Sorry to interrupt. Go on, get your helmet off, Ollie. We'll let you catch your breath after what was a difficult 20 minutes of racing here on the Anglesey International Circuit. Low cost just heading out onto the grid, so we might have time to get one quick thought from our double Mighty Minis class winner, Ollie. As I just said to Nevin, really perfect weekend.
Fantastic, worth the trip here. 7.5 hours on a Friday to get here from Norfolk, and it's been unbelievable. So, car is epic. Thank you, Steve Rideout from Octane Racing. It's absolutely brilliant. AD from AD's Auto Repairs for getting it all ready as well. It's been quite a battle from Silverstone to get some things sorted, and we're there, and it is absolutely epic. And the circuit as well is phenomenal. So, first time here as well. Amazing. Yeah.